Welcome to the Mission Go podcast, where we sit down with leaders in our communities and businesses to talk about what inspires them to go build something bigger than themselves. We want you to be inspired and you to take on your own personal mission also. Let's go, baby. Dana.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me. You're ridiculously welcome. Thank you for gracing me with your presence. Like, what are you talking about?
Come on.
You're a daggone published author.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Yeah, we're going to start right there.
We're going to start right there. Yeah, that's right. I am a published author, but I published it myself.
Well, that's a credential I don't have. My closest I've ever come to writing a book is, like, I've written a long email before, and I've felt emotionally attached to everything I put in that email.
Yeah. You loved what you did.
Or hated it, one or the other. Maybe it was to an underwriter, and they were like, "You should approve this loan."
Oh, okay,
yeah. But no, the writing of published author, owner, creator, crafter of Zoe Freedom Center. Just doing amazing things for God, for people, for the community, for recovery.
Yeah.
So let's rewind that clock back a little bit and tell me your story. Tell the world your story. What happened?
So I spent 9 years homeless on the streets in New York City. I didn't start out my life there. I didn't intend for my life to go that way. I had experienced really bad childhood experiences, one thing of which was being raped at age 14. And really that was just a thick confusion in my brain.
Yeah.
And so from that point, the enemy really just wreaked havoc in my life. And I was bored in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is a beautiful city now. It's full of everything fun to do. But when I was growing up a few years ago...
Hometowns are like that.
Hometowns are like that. There was nothing really to do except, really drink, smoke weed, unless you were in a foundational family of Christians, and then you could go to church.
Yeah.
We weren't that family. So I decided to move to New York and have some excitement in my life, and I found everything I didn't need to find, and wound up homeless and addicted and prostituting on the streets in New York City. And so those experiences, while they were horrible, and I really don't know that I would choose them, if I had a choice, I would not change it now for the world. What I do now is help people that have experienced those things to come out of that lifestyle and see that they're valuable and that they're worthy and that their life can be different. And no, you're not just relegated to a job that you hate. You can actually thrive, create your own work. I opened an event planning business after coming out of prison. 2 years later, I was running an event planning business, which I loved. And I was my own boss. And so, I have a criminal history, but walking in integrity and walking with the Lord, He opened doors that nobody could close. And then down the road just a little bit more, I met my husband, Mark, who the enemy said I would never find a man that loved me because of my past.
Well, he's a liar.
It's exactly what he is. He is the father of all lies.
Yes.
And he tried to convince me of a lot of lies. And over the years, the Lord has just proven him wrong over and over.
Yeah.
So then Mark and I are actually the founders of Zoe Freedom Center. His mother had an addiction for years, and so he has a different perspective really on the situation than I have. So we both have some lived experience, and God gave us both the vision for Zoe Freedom Center. And 5 years ago, we opened the doors.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That really is amazing. And I like your aspect of the story where you're almost like Joseph a little bit. Right?
Ooh.
Like Josephine. I'm going to call you Josephine.
Josephine.
Right? Like, in the pit.
Yeah.
Right? In the pit. And what the enemy meant to destroy you.
Yeah.
God has taken that experience, right? And allowed you to use it for good.
Exactly.
For His purposes.
Yep. Romans 8:28.
Yep.
That's my verse.
Amen. Amen. I love people quote Romans 8:28 and they say, well, God works all things for the good. Yes. There's the second part of that verse, right?
Exactly.
Which is for those who loved Him and are called according to His purposes.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I like that verse too.
It's amazing. We were actually talking about it today in the office. A woman who had called and struggling with her husband in addiction and she loves the Lord, and we just had this beautiful conversation about that and how God was going to come back around with this. And it was we don't see how he's going to do it. We don't always know how it's going to happen.
It's hard when you're in it.
Yeah, it's hard when you're in it, but we know that his word is true, and that's exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah. You have to put your stakes on his foundation.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And say, God, if you said it, it will happen.
It will.
I don't see how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it right now.
Yeah.
But
it's like, this is a myth.
You said it. You said it.
Yeah.
So how did you? All right. So you hit a lot of things really fast.
I did.
So let's rewind a little bit and say, how did you fall in love with God?
So I had tried everything that I knew to try to get free from drugs, to get off of drugs, to change my life on my own. It never worked. It would work for a while, and then something would happen, or I would go back into drugs. And my sister had found Christ, and when I would call her to beg for money, she would make me listen to her talk about Jesus. Bribery, whatever.
It works.
And she would pray with me. And finally, I was in jail for the last time. And I called her and I said, can you just pray for me? And I don't know what she said at that time. I just know that there was a shift in the way that my life was going. And it touches me because she was so faithful.
Yeah.
So when I got out of jail, I didn't want to go back to being homeless on the streets. It was cold. It was around Christmas time. And my mom invited me to come home to North Carolina for Christmas and for my birthday. And I went to church. Well, she told me I had to go to church. It's all in the book. You can read the book later, but it's like, keep it shorter. She said, you can stay here for a little while longer if you'll go to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. And I was like, that's just a little insane, isn't it?
That's my childhood church schedule.
I was just like, that's a little bit overkill, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, can't we just do Sunday morning or whatever? But it was Sunday night the first time I went to church, and I was mad at my mom for making me go to church, so I went with my sister to her church, and I was withdrawing from methadone, which is horrible, and I didn't even hear the pastor, anything that he said. I was up and down, going outside to smoke, just in and out. My sister sits on the front row, and everybody in the church sees me, gets coming and going. And finally, my sister just said, can you just sit here? He's almost over. It's almost done, and we can leave. And she was very frustrated. Well, he asked a very logical question, if you were to die when you leave here tonight, would you want to know for sure that you'd go to heaven? And I was just like, well, duh. Because I was in that mindset of logical. You got to make it make sense, or you just, I was too smart to be, or too logical to be smart, But he said that, and I was like, yeah, I'd like to know that. And, he went on, and before you know it, I'm raising my hand. Yeah, I'd like to know that for sure. And being asked to come up to the altar, and my sister's eyes were closed the whole time. So I just kind of jabbed her in the side, and I'm like, well, are you going to come with me? And we went up front, and he sent me to a back room, which was weird from where I was just coming from. Don't do that. Don't send new people to the back room.
Yeah.
But this wonderful woman named Miss Diane, she prayed for me, and I prayed to accept Jesus into my life, and I didn't feel any different. I didn't think anything was changed. I was just trying something else.
Yeah.
And we left there. I started a fight with my sister in the car on the way home, so nothing really had changed.
Right.
I woke up the next day, and that's when the change had happened. I wasn't dope sick anymore. I had slept all night, which does not happen when you're going through withdrawals. And it was like God just kind of slammed his hand down on the bed. I was making the bed, which I didn't have a bed for years. And he's like, I'm God. And I'm like, yeah, you are. I mean, I was fine. I was no longer sick. I didn't have a desire to use. I was just completely healed and delivered. And so that was when I realized and really just fell in love with the Lord. I'm still working on sanctification. We all are.
Yes.
But in that moment, he showed me who he was. And I can't deny it.
Yeah.
If there's ever a time when I'm doubting God. I'm like, really, Dana? Like, really?
Like, did you remember?
Do you remember?
Yeah.
22 years ago when he delivered you overnight, and you're really seriously going to question him.
Yeah.
So
that's
but
beautiful.
That was when
I truly, and when I talk to, people, and a lot of people have the question of, like, is God real? Is there a God? Right? Like it's an appropriate question.
It is valid.
Right? It's a valid question. And, I tell them, I encourage people, I said, listen, if you are honest in your heart and you seek that answer, he will give it to you in a way. It's different for everybody.
Yeah.
He will give it to you in a way that is perfect for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's amazing.
It is. It is amazing. And it still blows my mind today because one of the things that I didn't share that for the longest time because not everybody experiences deliverance like that. And I didn't want people to think something was wrong with them. And, why didn't God deliver me like that? But we all are on our own journeys, and the Lord is sovereign, and he knows who needs what and when. And we just have to trust that. And then he was very clear with me. He took away my desire to use, and he gave me a desire to tell people about him. But on my way I got a job at a church, which was the whole miracle. It was just craziness what God can do. But I was on my way to work, and I had just 2 months before gotten out of prison. I had been homeless on the streets of New York, prostituting, and now I'm working in a church with Christians that I had zero in common with, I thought.
Yeah, because your lived experience probably you felt was very different than what you thought their lived experience was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I was just bawling on the way to work. God, I don't know what to talk to these people about. Like, I don't know what to do. Why am I here?
Yeah.
And he said very clearly, tell them your story. And I was like, that was not God.
Nah, that wasn't you.
That was not God. That was because really, you want me to go in with all these perfect people?
My story's dirty.
And tell people these things about myself. Yeah. And he said it again. Tell them your story. And I was like, maybe it was God. I was very iffy, and I started doing that, and I just started having people come to my office and say, "Hey, can you help me with my granddaughter? Hey, my mom has been struggling," or I started to realize that I'm really not so different. I have an experience that it can actually help people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
So that sounds like it. Like right then, that's the seeds, the original seeds of Zoe.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So going from working in the church and just talking to people one-on-one, right? How do you get from there to deciding to found Zoe Freedom Center? So,
in between all of that, I got married. We adopted 3 children. I wrote a book. And so there was a lot going on that was healing, that was necessary, I think, to get to the point of where we were confident enough to start an organization like Zoe. But it was moving to Virginia from Greenville, North Carolina, and getting away from everything that I had become comfortable in, moving up here and just realizing that I need to do something more. So I just started volunteering. I started volunteering for our church, and through that, I was meeting people at Starbucks and at Panera and everywhere, and talking with them. Like, they knew over time, they knew that I was a person that they could sit down with, that they could trust to tell their issues to, and that I wouldn't tell everybody, and I could help them. And so that was happening for a while and got super expensive because I like coffee and I like sandwiches.
Listen, if God put something on your heart and it's expensive, you know what's going to happen? He's going to pay for it.
He's going to pay for it.
Yeah.
And so he started to put this desire in my heart to start an organization like Zoe, so that not only would it be less expensive, getting Starbucks and things, but that we could help more people than just who I had an opportunity to meet with here and there after work or whatever. And so I knew that this was going to be a big endeavor. God gave me a big vision. And my husband, Mark, is amazing. And he doesn't tell me no unless it involves animals. And then it's usually no until it's a yes. And so
I'm familiar with such activities. We have a puppy now named Wookie.
I saw that.
Yes. Unfortunately, our previous dog, he was old and he had to be put down. But, I was, in my mind, I'm like, all right, we're dog free now. We can go anywhere we want to go. We don't have to worry about the dog. We'll do this. We can live this carefree, dog-free life, right? And then, a couple of weeks into that, like not months, weeks into that, Kim and my daughters, Leah and Ava, were like, we need a new dog.
We need a new dog.
And then they're looking at pictures online, and then my no. So just like your husband, my no very quickly turned into a yes.
Well, that's good. It should always be that way. That's how it should be. But I knew that this vision was going to be big, and I didn't want to drag him through something that the Lord didn't also put on his heart. And so I just prayed. I said, Lord, I want to do this, but I want you to also give the vision to Mark. And if you do that, then we will do this.
Yeah.
And he did. He gave it to Mark in the most unconventional way. Like we were talking, it was specifically for him, in the way that he brought the vision to him while he was at a job, his government job, doing a training. And they asked him, everybody in the training, to write out something that they had a vision for that didn't have anything to do with work. And if you know the government, they don't even want you to have a life. Right. It's like everything is about what you do here. But he wrote down on a sheet of paper the vision for Zoe, and he took a picture of it and he sent it to me. And I was blown away. I don't know why I'm always just so shocked. Like, the Lord does things, and every time I'm just like, wow, did you see what he just did? And you just don't get used to it. I think you just don't become accustomed.
You don't. And that's what Earth is like. Can you imagine what it's going to be like in eternity with him?
Just mind blown all the time.
Right.
But that was how we agreed to start Zoe. I called him and I said, 6 months ago, the Lord gave me that as well. And that was just kind of how it got going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So as a family, starting this up with Mark and your kids, what are your kids' names?
So we have five. Jaden, Lance, Alyssa. Those are our three youngest.
Okay.
And then Chad and Shay are our two oldest, and they are in Massachusetts and one's in Texas.
Okay. So with the support of your family and getting this rolling, I mean, I imagine like the early days were a challenge to get off the ground. And how did they help you out with that?
So I think they were excited. The kids were finally kind of getting acclimated because they were adopted in 2012. In 2013, the adoptions were final.
Okay.
And so several years between while we were just trying to get acclimated with the kids. But I've always been very honest about my story with our kids, age appropriately, of course. And coming from foster care, specifically our 14-year-old at the time, I think it was really helpful to her, but she was very excited to see what we were doing, and she was telling her friends about it and things. The two younger kids, they just didn't really understand what we were doing. But Mark and I really just kind of sat down and let the Lord download a business plan, a business model for the organization. And we still have that. And it's just amazing how he guides us through that, because we didn't know what we were doing. And I've never started an organization. I was homeless forever. And it was just like, what do you mean?
Yeah. God qualifies the unqualified.
That's exactly right. And knowing that, I think is where the confidence came from every day to just take that next step or show up and just do the next thing. Even the red tape was amazing. He brought a woman named Lisa Harris into our lives that had started a nonprofit and had filled out all the paperwork. And I was like, what is all of this? Because if something's too long, I know I wrote a book, but I don't read a lot of books. And if something's too long, I just hand it to Mark. I'm like, can I have the Cliff Notes version of this?
Yes.
But Lisa had filled out all of this paperwork, and she's like, here it is.
That's amazing.
Just tweak it to fit your nonprofit, and I got you covered. So he brought people into our lives that could support us in the endeavor that we were undertaking, and it was just. It wasn't magical. It was magical, but it was God inspired and God led. Every day it was like, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing today, but show me and I'll do it.
Yeah, that's literally what he does, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so I forget who, I probably got it from some sermon or something, but it's like driving at night, right? Like your headlights only show so far. They don't show the whole journey, right?
Right.
You can only see so far. So you just keep your pedal on the gas and trust that there's going to be more road. So God's going to keep providing more road.
Exactly.
As, if he's told you to go somewhere, He'll keep providing.
And
he'll illuminate just what you need as you go.
Yeah. And then if I run off, he'll give me the little bumpy things on the side of the road to put me back on.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. You just recently celebrated your 5th anniversary.
Yes.
Right. So I know, like, even with just starting like a business, like the first couple of years are really, really tough. So making it to that, 5th year anniversary with, with funding, with assets, with mobile home. Yeah. What is it called?
Mobile harm reduction.
Harm reduction units, right? like you're really building something. And so tell me, like, what does it mean to hit that 5-year mark? I was blessed and fortunate enough to be able to be at your event celebrating that. So why don't you tell everybody kind of about that?
Yeah.
That feeling of
5 years.
5 and still alive, baby.
5. That's exactly what it is. 5 and still alive. It's definitely a place that you want to hit. It almost makes it like legitimate at that time. Like we've been operating and doing great things. God's been working over 5 years, but you hit that 5-year mark and it's like people will then go, okay, well, they're here to stay.
Yeah.
It's almost a staying number. It's helpful to be able to have a lot of experience over those 5 years, and that when we have people come in that need help, it's experience for them. When we have people come that want to support, it's okay, well, I'm going to be sowing into something that's lasting. But it was really, at the gala, was just so important for us to glorify the Lord and share all the miracles that have happened, because
some of those stories that we got to hear were at least beautiful.
Yes. And we know that there's so many more. I mean, there's so many more already.
Yeah, you can you can't go all night with stories,
and
but
I would love to. The Bible is a book full of stories that all are God's stories in those lives. And what we like to do is share the stories of God in the lives of the people that we serve. And so it's really important for several reasons that our people share their stories and their miracles, because freedom comes from that, from their testimonies. And so that our past doesn't have power over us anymore. It is legitimately us sharing what God brought us out from, glorifying Him, healing from all of that, and then going, okay, Lord, what's the purpose?
Yeah.
What was the purpose for all of this? We call that dream development at Zoe Freedom Center. It sounds very, practical, but literally we stop dreaming when we're like 10, right? Sometimes we just do that. We don't think we're allowed to dream anymore, especially if you've gone through some of the things that the people that we serve have.
Yeah.
And we just want to encourage them that the Lord has a dream for your life. And we want to help you figure out what that is and start that journey. For me, it was opening an event planning business, seeing that I could do that, working for a church that was really strange after, all of what had been going on with me. But God does have dreams for us. And so the 5-year mark really was just like a solidification. Is that a word? Can I make up words today?
Solidification? Solidiflaking? Nick approved.
Nick approved.
Solidification.
it was solidifying the miracles and the purpose and everything. It was just amazing.
That's beautiful. As you were speaking just then, and you had said, the people have their past, and they think that they don't have a future because of their past, right? Yeah. I got this in my head, because my brain's a little weird. I just got this vision of, like, you've seen The Lion King. Everybody's seen The Lion King. Like, when Simba is kind of complaining, I can't do whatever, and then Rafiki hits him in the head. Yeah. Boom, and he's like, "Oh, what was that for?" "Don't worry about it. It was in the past, right? The past doesn't hold you back from what God is pulling you to, exactly. Right? Just like in your story, the past as hurtful, damaging, and harmful as it was, right? It was turned around and used so that you can support those who have been hurt, damaged, and harmed.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
So, the past, while it is the past and it is harmful, right? Yeah. If you're following where God's taking you, then that's going to be not what's holding you back. That's going to be what's propelling you forward.
Exactly. And if we can get our folks that come to us to understand that, Lord help us, it's going to be some world changers that are out there just helping in this. We have an epidemic. We have a huge issue. Yeah. And we have to be the light. And if we can get these people to understand just what you just said, we're just going to wreak havoc on the enemy.
Yeah. Praise God. Just march right in and just tear that kingdom down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. So as part of marching in and attacking the enemy, you mentioned the epidemic. I mean, drug use and heavy addiction is prevalent. Like, there's no other word to describe it. It's damaging. I don't know, like, a lot of people don't really like to tell their stories. They like to keep their things private, right? But I can imagine, just in the amount of people who I do know who have been impacted and have been openly vocal about that, I imagine there's probably 5x at least families who aren't openly vocal about it but are still suffering. So the need is huge.
It is.
What does that feel like? Like when you're standing,
in the day-to-day
at this huge burning fire, and you're like, sometimes you maybe feel like you don't have enough water. Yeah. Like, what does that feel like?
At the beginning of this journey, it was overwhelming. And I often say that if I try to carry all of this burden on my own, I will be crushed under it. And so it took me probably about 2 years to finally just go, okay, Lord, this is yours. Like, I'm not strong enough to carry all of this. So whoever's in front of me that day for that time, I'm going to be completely present. I will do what you call me to do, and we'll do that. And then when they leave me, then I'm going to give them back to you. And that was really the only way that I could sleep, was just to almost visualize myself saying, okay, I saw these people today and I just need to give them back to you. I still pray for them, and they're still on my mind. If they call me at 2 a.m, I'm going to answer the phone. But when they're not in my presence, or then I just have to trust that God's got this. And that's where understanding the sovereignty of the Lord comes in, because he cares for them way more than I ever could. Yeah. And so it was so freeing, because that can be binding. You could be bound in, I want to help everybody. And that is a trap. And so we help who God gives us to help in the moment. And that is such a freeing thing for me, was just giving them back to the Lord.
Yeah. It's like it sounds to me like it's very much understanding your role. Yeah. Right? This is like God, this is the lane. God says, this is your lane. Right. Right? You know?
Don't get in my lane, he
says. Don't get in my lane, right? Just, I don't know. I'm thinking through, and I'm thinking, Moses, right? He's got the entire Israelites with him, and he says, this is hard. This is too much, right? And God says, you know what? Distribute it out, right? So you've hired team members. You've got counselors, you got people helping to support. So you've been able to spread the load out
Absolutely.
a little bit while maintaining your lane.
Right.
So yeah. So how many people do you have working with you at Zoe right now?
So right now we have 4, 5,
Okay.
6. We have 6,
Okay.
and then if you count me, 7, including our counselors.
Okay.
And everybody's part-time except Jessica, who we just hired.
Okay.
We offered her the job at the gala.
So she's the one.
She's the one.
Oh my gosh. You gotta.
Okay, so
You gotta.
Jessica started with us in 2020, and at the resource center, we get people connected with other places. Because we didn't have a next step yet. We have one coming, but she needed an inpatient program, and so we would connect her. But I met with Jessica for probably a year, just in the peer recovery specialist role that I have, and I sat across from Jessica, and I was often just like, Lord, I don't know how you're going to do this. Like he didn't do the same thing for me, right? I was Jessica to somebody at
Sure.
one point. And I was just questioning God. I'm like, I don't know how you're going to do this, Lord, but I'm going to be here. I'll be here for it. And she wound up going through several other programs, and she is so on fire for God. She's getting her children back in her life. She's got 3 years sober now. And we hired her for our case manager for our upcoming project, which is a women's home. And she's now meeting with people. She's a peer recovery specialist as well.
That's awesome.
And so she is giving back what she received. And she's very good at it. And she's very passionate about it. And I think that she's just going to change lives of many, many people.
That's beautiful. Our God is a God of multiplication. I tell people this all the time.
Yeah.
We look at things and we're looking at, okay, one person, right? Yeah. So that's an addition game, right? Mm-hmm. But he's a God of multiplication.
Exactly.
Right? So you've been able to sow into Jessica, right? Jessica's fallen in love with the Lord.
Yes.
And now she's on fire, and she's going to go be able to impact multiple other Danas and Jessicas and help them in their recovery and their growth. And then it just...
It reminds me of the Well of Awesome commercial, and they told 2 friends.
Yeah,
so
they told 2 friends, right? But as I was doing this, I was thinking about the tree, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like the roots of a tree just extending out, right? It multiplies the impact and the reach.
Yeah.
So speaking of impact, you leaped ahead a little bit on me because I definitely
not to, but
it was right there. It was like it was the low hanging fruit. So you had to. Tell me about the Women's Center that you are. Like, where is it? When is it live? And like, how close are we? Is it open? Like, what's going on?
We're so close.
Okay.
So 2 years ago, we had a good friend of ours, an investor, offer to purchase a home for residential treatment. It's actually a restorative care home. It will be a place where women who have found themselves in addiction can go and safely heal. We will also be trained in the trauma-informed care of those who have been trafficked. And so we'll be uniquely trained in those ways. But this is a long-term residential program that up to 6 women can be in our main house. And then, as God always does, he went over and above what we had been praying for and asking for. And he gave us our next phase as well, which is a reentry home. So on this property are 2 houses.
Okay.
And so the women will be in one program up to a year, and then when they're ready to start integrating back out into society, they'll move to the reentry home, and they'll come and go to work and start saving money. We'll do Dave Ramsey. We'll, save up 6 months of rent and expenses so that when they do leave, they'll be on really solid footing. But while they're at the reentry home, which is right next door, they can still come over and do groups. They can still come over and get support. And so when they leave the reentry home, they'll come back out. If they still need support, they'll come to our outpatient services that we've been running for 5 years to continue there. So we just want a full circle of Zoe banner to help these women get through with one solid message all the way through. No confusion. No, this is the way that works, or this is the way that works. It's just, this is the way that we do it, and there's not a lot of confusion for them as they go through. Because we also know the enemy is the father of lies, but he's also the author of confusion. And so So we're very excited to open this home. It is fully renovated now.
Whoop, whoop.
Yes, it is. It's beautiful. Oh my gosh, it is beautiful. But we're shooting for July.
Okay,
to
that's
open the doors.
really close.
Really close.
Yes.
So looking for God to show me who to hire for all of the staff positions. It's going to be staffed 24 hours a day. But we are looking for partners right now to help us furnish it. So we want these women to walk in the doors and see this beautiful home that they get to live in and have, like what Jessica calls a life sabbatical, where they can just put down all of the worries of the world and focus on building a relationship with the Lord and healing from all of those roots that the enemy dug in and planted in their lives. So part of the partnership for furniture is that we're just looking for new furniture, value and still. The house is gorgeous. We want them to walk in and know, I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
We're going to have program. It's going to be pretty intensive, but really it's just focusing on yourself, focusing on the Lord, understanding that you are valuable, that you have worth. And then one thing that's really huge for us is to combat the lie of the enemy that this community can't stand them. So what we believe when we're out there on the street is that this whole community can't stand us. We are just what's on the bottom of your shoe. But what we can prove to them is that this community came together, because everything in that house has been donated by local businesses and local partners. Every piece of work that's been done in there has been done by churches and volunteers. And I mean, we have a list of 20-something churches right now that have been helping us get this established. And so if they don't care about you, then why are they doing all of this?
Yeah.
And so that's going to be huge for them to be able to walk out of those doors and into society and feel like I have support, like these people care about me before they ever knew me. They cared about me and me getting better and me being everything that I can be.
That's beautiful. People need that moment of you're valued.
Yes.
They need that understanding of I have value, because if you lack it, then you will seek self-worth in any direction.
Exactly.
Any direction, right?
Exactly.
Whether it's through abusive relationships or, drug use or alcohol, whatever. Like, you'll seek that comfort and validation from some external force, right?
Yep.
So that's beautiful that you're being able to do this and to provide this to these women who are seriously, it just breaks my heart a little bit, right? That they're feeling like the society doesn't even want them or have any value,
or blames them, or I mean, some of the things that we hear and that I personally experienced are just some severe abuse. And it's the enemy. He starts when we're very early, very young, lying to us, convincing us that we don't have value, or maybe it's through abuse of like your family may not even know. My family had no idea I had been raped. I was 14. He was 21 years old. Just completely groomed me. And the majority of people that we work with have sexual abuse in their history, physical abuse, and substantial loss. And so when we really dig into the roots, those are the roots. So the drugs are just a manifestation. Coping mechanism,
Yeah.
Exactly. The roots are what we have to get out. I mean, we can have somebody stop using for however long, but if they don't dig those roots out, if they don't go back to drugs or alcohol, it's going to go to some other negative coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It's going to stay. So freedom comes from digging those roots out and replacing those with a root of truth, with a root of gratitude, with a root of love. And so that's where we can get free.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got a lot in your hands getting ready to launch the, what's the name of the?
It's Zoe Restorative Care Home.
Zoe Restorative Care Home.
This specific one is called The Hideaway.
The Hideaway. Okay.
Yeah.
So getting ready to launch The Hideaway.
Yes.
Okay. What do you see as far as the future? I mean, you're at 5 years now. What are we going to be talking about after the 10th anniversary?
So far my head is spinning with how fast God has us moving, but I don't see him slowing down. I keep telling him that, you've given us this great vision, but I'm older now. And we're going to have to move this along quicker,
Yeah.
But he tells me I know how old you are and keep doing what I say. And so, but what we see happening are more homes.
Okay.
We would like to have this home up and running with excellence, and then we want to duplicate what we're doing here in other cities. Possibly the next home would be for men. It really does depend on what God leads us to do. Our investor that invested in this home, once we pay this home off, which he has graciously given us a 0% interest, which I'm sure you appreciate.
In my industry, that right there, that is a gift and a miracle from the Most High God. I will tell you that.
It is, absolutely. So once we are finished paying for this home, he wants to roll that into another home. Where that will be, we're not sure. Again, North Carolina, I have a lot of roots there and a lot of connections there. We want to be very careful about overtaxing our communities with donations because we are a nonprofit.
Yep.
We operate off of the kindness of our community.
What's that, Scarlett from the Gone with the Wind? I've always relied on the kindness of strangers. Right?
Okay. Tawan's got to have me do a video like that.
Yes, sir.
Maybe we'll get Jen to do it because she's a little more Scarlett-y than I am. But that's great. So we don't know if it'll be in North Carolina. We do know that North Carolina is on the in the vision to have a space down there. But we would love to see a detox unit under our banner that will contract out to a medical professional, a 30-day program that we'd like to have. And some of these things, I may not live long enough to see them come to fruition, and that's fine. I see the full vision. I don't even know if I see the full vision. Probably if I did, like I told Tuan, I would hide under the bed.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of vision there. And as long as we do what God's called us to do in the time that we're with Zoe and how he's leading us, then we're successful. But I would love to see at least one full string from outpatient to detox to 30-day to residential to reentry to go live your life.
I really enjoy that what you just said there as far as, I don't know. You said, I don't know if I'll live as long to see it, right? I like that's your vision.
Yeah.
Your vision is not just, hey, what am I going to do? Your vision is putting down a foundation that will outlast you.
Right, exactly.
Right? That is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
And that is...
And it's really how we feel.
Yeah.
It is.
That's amazing. I don't even know how to... That's a great place, right? To be is like, I want to create something that, 50 or 100 years from now might still be impacting for God's purposes in the future.
Yeah, and if God decides tomorrow to end addiction, which he can do, he does what he wants.
He does what he wants.
Then we'll close the doors of Zoe. We're not going to restructure. We're not going to change. The mission has been accomplished. Yeah. Close the door.
Mission accomplished. Mm-hmm. Well, let's pray for that. Let's pray for mission accomplished.
Absolutely.
Not the George Bush kind of mission accomplished, right? But like legit mission accomplished.
Legit mission accomplished.
Legit mission accomplished.
Absolutely.
That is great. So how can people support you now?
So many ways. Prayer is powerful. Mm-hmm. I mentioned my sister praying for me. She had a whole team of folks praying for me and a lot of other people. Prayer is huge. Of course, volunteering. We have tons and tons of volunteer opportunities. If anybody wants to spend some time with us and help people come out of addiction and get freedom from addiction, we'd love to have them. We have opportunities for people to work directly with people or for people to work at the Fred Knapp Stadium and do the concession stand and help us raise money over the summertime, which we have, a lull in the summertime.
Okay.
And then also just giving. financially, we can't do what we do without people who give. And monthly donors are amazing. They help us to kind of budget and know what's coming and plan ahead. And then our larger donors, they do that too, but they kind of push the mission forward. They allow us to dream a little bit bigger than I don't even know if I want to dream any bigger than what we're already dreaming, but they help us bring those future dreams into reality.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the ways: prayer, volunteering, and giving.
Awesome. Beautiful. And then where can an individual pick up a copy of your book?
Well, on Amazon, or they can come by the office.
Okay.
It's called Desperate for a Fix. And it's just the story of how I got into addiction, and it's kind of a journey through my day-to-day throughout that time, and then how the Lord just came in and redeemed it all.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I know I will pick up a copy.
Cool.
And I will read it. Unlike other books that I buy that I don't read, I will read it.
Well, it's a very quick read. It's short because
I'm a very slow reader.
It really is short though. But it's my whole ADHD is like, get it written and make it concise.
All right, cool. Then it may vibe with my own ADHD.
Maybe
brain,
it will.
So, okay. Thank you so much for coming on today. I can't even begin to tell you how wonderful it is to see the fruit coming from the trees that you have planted, right? And I think that's a good analogy, right? Like you got the logo and everything as well, but like what's the phrase? It's you don't plant trees for yourself, you plant them for your children.
Right. Yeah.
Because they take a while to grow, right?
Yes.
So it's your children and your grandchildren who will live in the shade and enjoy the fruits, right? But you're planting the trees for the generations in the future.
Absolutely.
And that's beautiful. So thank you. And thank you for, allowing us to witness it and be a small part in your journey.
Well, we appreciate your support. I appreciate you having me on today. We absolutely love what we do, and I get to do it, and it's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.